Good evening, hello, and welcome. Today we're looking at this KingSpec 2TB NVMe Gen3 solid-state hard drive. We're going to put it into a little enclosure here after taking a quick look at it, and then we're going to do some simple file transfer test with it. So, out of the box there, got the device itself, which looks about like I would expect a 2280 NVMe drive to look like. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. So let's get them out of our packaging. Oh, that's really nice. There's even a little screw that they included there. You don't see that too often, but that's thoughtful. Won't need it for this particular enclosure, but even still impressed to see it, that this little enclosure just uses a rubber plug that just kind of wiggle in there some way, somehow, to get the drive to stay. And since I'm on camera, undoubtedly going to struggle with that a little bit. Maybe get something from over here to help me poke at it. Let's see. Small screwdriver, that might help. Just need to poke that down in there. Yeah, isn't so bad. So we're installed in our enclosure here. This is an aluminum type of thing. This guy here that doesn't make contact with the enclosure, so I wouldn't claim that it dissipates heat like crazy or anything, but to be fair, we will seal it up in there. Just if I can figure out how to get it back in. There we are. There we go. Mostly. There we are. So we've got it in this enclosure here. In previous experience, it's a pretty fast external drive enclosure, so slide the box out of the way and pull this ThinkPad P50 over here. Get ourselves a good quality USB-C cable. Got our USB-C port here on the back, if I can find it. There we are. So, I don't know that this is going to show up terribly well for you folks on camera, but let's see. This is pretty typical with new drives. Let's see what the notification said. Restart required. I don't think that's the case. So a lot of times when you have a brand new hard drive, you're going to have to go into into disk management on the computer. I think create and format hard disk partitions. So I'm going to open that up, and it says I have to initialize this disk. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Easy enough there. And now it shows up down here. Disk 2, 1907.71 gigabytes, just under 2 terabytes, pretty typical. I'll do new simple volume, and I will set it to the maximum size, and we can just call it drive E. That's fine. NTFS with a quick format. We'll just call it 2 terabyte NVMe. Next, finish, and Windows detected it over here, so that disk is now ready. You can see it popped up over here in Windows Explorer as well. I realize that the resolution, recording with a webcam for this is not necessarily working the best, but I'll at least get rid of that overlay to make it a little bit better for us. So that's all we have to do in Windows disk management. Tilt this around a little bit, you'll be able to see a little bit here. So now we have an empty, and it says 1.86, so all formatted and everything on this Windows 10 computer is showing me a capacity 1.86 terabytes. So I have over here a folder of video files. It is exactly 100 gigabytes, almost on the dot here. So we are going to do a quick and simple test of copying 100 gigabytes of video files over to this hard drive. Now the source hard drive, the C drive here, is a Samsung 980, so that's a pretty good hard drive. We are going to hit paste here and start that transfer. So our initial speed out the gate is over 500. We're 520 to 530, somewhere in there. We also have task manager open here. So disk 0 is the disk that's being read from. Disk 1 we're not going to worry about. Disk 2 over here is the 2 terabyte hard drive. So we can see here we haven't quite pegged out the drive. I'm not sure if my Samsung 980 just can't read data fast enough. That seems kind of unlikely, although it is also the operating system drive, so hard to say. But we are holding steady over a 500 megabyte per second write speed, which I know the advertised speed in the listing is higher, but you have to realize that in an external enclosure going over USB-C, even a good USB-C, you're not going to achieve the same types of speed that you would get if that drive was installed inside of the computer itself. There's usually some kind of performance penalty going over any kind of USB, even if it's a nice USB-C. I'm feeling the aluminum enclosure, and there's no hint or indication of heat from it so far. We're about halfway done with that transfer. We still have not dropped below 500. We're in the 5-teens, 520s. Oh, I saw 499 for a second there, but we are sustaining at this 100 gigabyte file transfer about a half a gigabyte per second, 500 some megabytes per second transfer rate. And for write speed on an external USB-C powered drive, I would say that's really pretty good. I don't know if the USB, I'm certain we've reached the limits of what our USB bus can handle, because none of these drives are pegged out. So this drive is showing that it has a little bit more steam. If only it could have a little bit better connection to it over USB. This is as good as we're going to get, over 500 megabytes per second. That is very fast for an external hard drive. So if it will write at 500 plus megabytes per second, it's safe to say that it will read almost for certain at least that fast, if not somewhere upwards of, well, if it's based on hitting the limit of the USB, about 500 plus megabytes per second in and 500 megabytes per second out. That would be pretty reasonable. I still can't detect any heat or warmth out of that transfer finish, so that's all seems good. That's really fast for an external drive on a somewhat older laptop. So performance is good, storage capacity is good, easy to install, easy to use, and nice of them to include that screw even though we didn't need it. All in all, I think we can give the KingSpec hard drives, especially in the 2 terabyte capacity, 2 thumbs up. It seems excellent. So that's it for now, and have a good one.